じゃあ藤原には好きなアニメないのか。
いや、まあジブリとかは全部見てるくらい好きですけど。
はいはいはいはい、オタク。篠宮は
赤毛のアンとか
グルメの名作あげるやつが一番マニアック、一番オタク。石上は
君の名は。
何ちょっと女子受けいいところチョイスしてんだよ。一周回ってオタクだオタク。
Your Name is one of the most beautifully crafted movies I've ever watched. I've been a cinephile for a very long time now, and over the years, I've had my fair share of films that resonated with me all throughout my life. As a kid, I loved nothing more than to watch Marvel movies in the cinemas with my family. But as I grew older, I began to branch out and started watching sci-fi classics like Terminator 2, Back to the Future, and RoboCop, to name a few movies that truly ignited my love for the art of cinema. By the time I became a teenager, films like Pulp Fiction and Hot Fuzz became my personal favorites during my senior high years. But after watching this over 4 times now, I've come to realize that no other film has made this much of an impact on my life as much as Your Name. Now, I previously talked about this film in a video where I reviewed every Makoto Shinkai movie, and to sum up what I said in that video, I said that the film was massively successful when it first came out, becoming one of the highest grossing Japanese films ever, and was beloved by critics, weebs, and moviegoers alike, even up until now. As for the story, the film follows a Tokyo boy named Taki and a town girl named Mitsuha, who begin to mysteriously swap bodies every now and then. They've never met before, and their constant body swapping is severely impacting each other's lives and relationships, and thus kicks off an odyssey for these two young lovers, filled with fun, romance, disaster, and chaos. When I first heard of this film years ago, I wasn't that much of an anime person back then. I wasn't into Attack on Titan, or Naruto, or Demon Slayer like everyone else. I was more of a Western pop culture kind of nerd, and so really my only exposure to anime at the time was really more through video games like the Ace Attorney and Fire Emblem franchises. Although I was still able to watch some peak fiction like, Konosuba. That counts, right? Yeah, I know, my taste in anime fucking sucks. I am sorry. Look, it's not that good, alright? Come on now. It really wasn't until I watched films like Your Name and Pancreas and A Silent Voice when I realized that I love anime just as much as I love cinema. And in many cases, it can work both ways. And the first time I ever watched this movie went a little something like this. So picture this, right? It's 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has sent the globe into lockdowns, and pretty much everything is shut down. All the movies you were looking forward to that year got either pushed back or dumped on streaming. You're stuck at home and bored and worried about the current state of the world, so you just kick back and watch all the movies and shows that you didn't have time to watch before the lockdown began. And then you remember this one little anime movie that everybody was gushing about called Your Name. Then you think to yourself, sure, why not? The world is ending anyways. Let's see what all the hype is about. What the fuck did I just watch? Yeah, I will admit, I was really confused by this movie during my first viewing. There were times when I genuinely had no idea what the hell was happening, or who was in whose body. I actually watched this movie with a non-weeb friend not too long ago, and she was also just as confused, which made it very clear that I wasn't the only one who was feeling this way. It wasn't until the movie got added to Netflix a year later when I decided to give it another shot, and then it hit me. Rewatching this film made it go from a 7 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. I just want to make this pretty clear now. This is one of those films you need to see more than once to fully appreciate. The story really started to click together for me when I rewatched it, and I got to appreciate all of these details I missed the first time. For instance, the very moment we're introduced to Taki and he's going full femboy, it turns out that Mitsuha was already swapping bodies with him by then. There's even a scene preceding Taki's introduction where Mitsuha wishes to be, and I quote, a handsome Tokyo boy in her next life. It's details like this that make the movie make more and more sense with every rewatch, which feels genuinely rewarding. Not every movie I watch does this, so the fact that there's always something new and cool to discover every time I watch this movie makes me love it even more. I already said this in my Makoto Shinkai video, but I'll paraphrase it for the sake of this review. The first 45 minutes alone are one of the best rom-com movies I've ever seen. And it's written in a way that would fit pretty well in an era like the early 2000s. Like, literally the first time we meet the main characters, they're already touching themselves. Oh, hang on a minute. That sounds really bad out of context. Some of the funniest scenes in this movie just scream early 2000s teen comedy. Mainly the one when Zenzen Zense plays, and it's just a montage of Taki and Mitsuha messing up each other's lives while switching bodies, all while writing down insults on each other's faces and bickering like if Smosh was an old married couple.
A long time ago, when I was a teen, a girl saw my dick and called it Mr. Clean. You too? Dolphin Bros! Ah, you suck at high-fiving!
They play off each other like complete idiots and I love it. There's even a scene when Taki is in Mitsuha's body and a girl confesses to her just because she was fucking ballin'. She was low-key ballin'. Not to mention that for everything hilarious about this sequence, it also showcases some of the most striking visuals throughout the whole movie. Even if they're basically just time-lapse shots of Japan, I gotta say, they're really well animated. It's a sequence that's so funny, yet so beautiful to look at. How does Shinkai do it? But perhaps some of my personal favorite moments in the movie are when Taki is on screen. I particularly love the scene where Mitsuha, as Taki, forgets to bring his lunch, and then he just gets really excited and happy when his friends take him to a cafe for the first time, like he's never been to one before, and that's because Mitsuha actually hasn't, and basically ends up eating everything. There's also all the moments with Taki and his friends, whether he's going on dates with Miss Okudera and patching up her skirt with some really cute knitting, or the entire second act, which basically turns into a road trip adventure comedy movie, minus all the White Castle's weed and Neil Patrick Harris.
Jesus Christ! Did you see that unicorn? Its horn was so shiny.
Also, I just know there's no way in hell Taki's still a straight cis boy after everything Mitsuha has done to him. She brings out the feminine side of this handsome Tokyo boy in front of his friends, and it's not only cute and extremely wholesome, but also very funny and entertaining to watch. The movie does such a good job accurately portraying what teen boys and teen girls would do if they ever swap bodies with each other. Also, Taki and Mitsuha. Holy fuck, man. Easily top 10 best couples in all of anime ever. Possibly top 5. These characters are the two main reasons why I love Your Name so much. There are just so many fucking things I want to say about these characters. Like, where do I even start? I guess I can start by saying that I love the contrast we see between their upbringings, with Mitsuha living in an old-fashioned mountainous town and Taki living in the literal capital of Japan. It kind of reminds me of this cute adventure game I loved as a kid called Broken Age, which is also about a boy and a girl who live very far away from each other. Very underrated game, by the way, for those who are only hearing about it for the first time. Elijah Wood and Jack Black are in it too, have fun. As mentioned earlier, they're playfully bickering and annoying each other once they start switching bodies. But as the film progresses and grows more tonally serious, they soon realize that this comet, and the ribbon Mitsuha gave Taki on the train, has brought their fates together, or as Mitsuha's grandma likes to call it, musabi. There's just one problem though. Not only do they live very far from each other, but they're also different timelines apart. And so part of the last leg of this movie is really about Taki and Mitsuha fighting tooth and nail to see each other personally, until it culminates into one of my favorite movie scenes of all time, the Twilight scene. This has got to be one of the most emotionally satisfying things I've ever seen, and I say that without exaggeration. Taki and Mitsuha are all by themselves here, and even if they don't last very long, they share a lot of beautiful moments together, from Mitsuha teasing Taki for grabbing her breasts every time they swapped bodies, to Taki giving Mitsuha her ribbon back so she could tie it around her hair. Where I come from, aka the Philippines, we usually call this kilig vibes. And to be honest, I never really cared that much for that kind of thing. But this scene really got to me, man. What else can I say? I can't help it. It's too cute. At least until Mitsuha vanishes halfway through writing her name on Taki's hand, and they forget each other's names once Twilight is over. Very similar to how people can't hold on to a dream. The scene where Taki and Mitsuha first meet on a train is also very heartwarming to watch. The fact that Mitsuha went all the way to Tokyo just to see Taki, only to act all socially awkward when they first see each other and she's just blushing so hard and Taki's like, what the fuck is up with this weird ass girl? Again, Key League vibes just all over this thing. Even if it's also kind of an emotional fucking wrecking ball. Like, come on, Taki! How could you not recognize your girl right in front of you? Come on, man. And the ending scene where the two finally meet each other on the stairs and ask for each other's names has got to be one of the most satisfying and tear-jerking endings to a movie ever. Taki and Mitsuha are really cute when they're together, and it seems like I'm not alone in this one, because Shinkai loved these characters so much that he had them cameo for his next film, Weathering With You, just so he could see them one more time. And so do I, honestly. I love to see them together more often. These two movies ain't enough. I need a sequel of them just being in love with each other so bad. On that note, are we sure we're not setting up a Makoto Shinkai cinematic universe here? The teacher from Garden of Words even makes a cameo here, so does that mean everything is connected? Things to ponder for the future. Another thing I love about this movie is how it balances humor and emotion seamlessly. Some of my favorite movies and shows also pull this off pretty damn well, including Ted Lasso, Barbie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and the Guardians and Spider-Verse movies, just to name a few examples. And Your Name is definitely somewhere on the top of that list. Many of the film's most emotional moments tend to revolve around the love Taki and Mitsuha slowly grow for each other. Like when Mitsuha dies along with the other residents of her town from the comet, and Taki sets out to rescue her by drinking her kuchikamezaki. This leads to one of the most beautifully animated scenes in the film, where Taki is basically drifting through space and time, all while speedrunning through Mitsuha's whole life just to swap bodies with her again, and touch her breasts while crying. It's one of those scenes that's just begging to be seen on the biggest screen possible. Because imagine watching this on a crappy iPad, right? Couldn't be me. I should also point out that one of Makoto Shinkai's biggest influences for Your Name was Christopher Nolan's 2014 science fiction epic Interstellar. Having rewatched both of these movies recently, I can tell this film was really influenced by Interstellar down to its otherworldly visuals and climax. Nolan being the blueprint yet again. I should also point out that Your Name also deals with similar themes from Makoto Shinkai's past works, especially 5 centimeters per second and the concept of two young lovers separated by distance and time. This is proven true especially in the ending when we see an older Taki and Mitsuha, similar to the ending of 5 centimeters per second. Shinkai also claimed the film to be heavily inspired by Japan's frequent exposure to disasters, such as the 3/11 earthquake and tsunami. And it's very apparent considering the movie's plot centers around how comets are beautiful from afar, but deadly nearby. The music also works so well into the story and adds so much emotion to everything going on. The movie's soundtrack by Radwimps is just as good as the movie itself, and as its own thing, it's probably one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. I can see why Shinkai brought back Radwimps for his next 2 movies, because they low-key cooked with this movie's soundtrack.
You're a goddamn artist. This is art, Mr. White.
Words are not enough to describe how much I love this movie and how much it's changed my life over the years. In 2021, I had a bit of a phase where this movie was basically the only thing that was on my mind. I drew Your Name every day, I wrote Your Name fanfics, and even did some Your Name AMVs and fan cams. Yeah, I think I may have annoyed a few people with my love for this movie, but I really couldn't help it. I guess it's just the fact that this movie is so cute and wholesome that I can't help but grow a big stupid smile on my face every time I watch it. My main takeaway from this movie is that I think living in this world would be much better if you're doing it with someone you love. It's a film that tackles the teenage coming-of-age romance experience so well, and a little too well, I'd say, which would probably explain why this film has its fair share of haters. It's Christopher Nolan for tweens! Is it a sweet movie? Definitely. Is it a little too sweet for others? Maybe. Is the film a little overhyped? Yeah, I guess so. But honestly, so does every other film that's beloved by basically everyone. Except Parasite, probably. That one isn't overhyped, right? It's a film that not only reignited my love for the art of cinema, but it also truly got me into anime and showcased how beautiful it can be as an art form. The likes of which I haven't seen since the works of Hayao Miyazaki, Satoshi Kon, and Hideaki Anno. It's a film that's changed my life well enough that it's continued to influence me over the years, especially a romantic drama short film I made for a college project not too long ago called For Clara. I was heavily inspired by Makoto Shinkai's works, including Your Name, while making that short film, hence why I included a lot of train shots, just because it was one of his biggest tropes, and also because I wanted to recreate the vibes I get whenever I watch his films. I hope I did it correctly. I look at a movie like Your Name the same way I listen to music from bands like, say, U2 or Coldplay or Death Cab for Cutie or The National. I'm not too much of a romance person, since a lot of movies, shows, animes, and songs within that genre can get formulaic pretty quickly. But when there's a lot of personal passion and grounded emotional weight put into it, romance and art can be just as beautiful as love itself. One of the greatest plays of all time is Romeo and Juliet. And for everything tragic about it, at its core is a beautiful story about how love can transcend difficult situations and change lives. When you're willing to take risks and give away everything to be with the person you care for deeply and emotionally, and the person on the other end feels the same way, that's true love. All of my favorite media that dabble in romance are the ones that truly understand the sentiment and go towards it. And Your Name also pulls that off really fucking well. Bottom line, that's why I love Your Name on such a deeply personal and emotional level. It's a wholesome and uplifting cinematic experience that changed the way I see love, life, relationships, time, adolescence, anime, movies, and art as a whole. I'm not joking when I say this, guys. Your Name seriously changed my life. I love this movie well enough to have this tradition where I watch it at least once a year, something I've been doing since the beginning of the pandemic. The film really does deserve all the hype, to the point where Shinkai has even tried asking people to stop watching his movie because it's incomplete and rushed. He's very humble and honest about it, I'll give him that. It's a movie that's perfect in every way, that Paramount Pictures and J.J. Abrams are now hoping that they could recapture that magic through a live-action remake. Yeah, good luck with that. It's also been in development hell for quite a while now, which probably means this is a bad idea from the start. Why are they doing this? Not everything animated translates well to live action. Why Hollywood will never learn this lesson, we will never know, personally. Regardless, watching Your Name was a beautiful cinematic experience I'll never forget. It's a film that rightfully deserves all the praise it gets, and will forever remain a special place in my heart as one of my favorite movies of all time. Watching this movie also made me realize something special, and it's that for a long time, I was always searching for something, for someone.
I think I know when this feeling possessed me. Just one day comes to mind.
That day, the day the stars came falling. It was almost like
A scene from a dream. Nothing more, nothing less
than a beautiful view.
ああこのまま僕たちの声が世界の端っこまで消えることなく届いたりしたらいいのになそして